Crossover trials are an interesting type of experimental design, so let's take a look at them. In crossover trials, participants receive both the active and control treatments with a washout period between treatments. So essentially, the patient becomes its own control. Take a look at the picture to see how it's done. I'll ask you some questions in the next slide. So let's compare the crossover trial with a parallel design. How do you randomize in a crossover trial, and how is that different from a parallel design? Which diseases and treatments are most suitable for a crossover design? What concerns do you have with each design, and which study design is more powerful? So hit the pause button and think about the answers, and then we will continue. So here are the answers. In a crossover study, the patient receives both drugs. So what are they being randomized to? Well, they're not randomized to a drug, they're randomized to a sequence, meaning that the patient may receive drug A first and then B, or they may receive drug B first or A. So they're being randomized to the sequence of treatment, not to the treatment itself, because they all get both treatments. Which diseases and treatments are most suitable for a crossover design? Well, those would be diseases that can, revert. So if you give a drug and the patient is cured, then it will not be a good type of disease or drug for the crossover study. But something that you give and then it maybe is more transient, and then you need to treat the patient again. That will be more suitable for a crossover study. And what concerns do you have? One concern that is the crossover may take a little longer because you need to go on a drug first, being followed for a period, and then go to the next drug. So it might take longer. So the longer follow-up may also mean that you might lose patients during the crossover study. Now, you do follow up participants in the parallel design, so attrition is a concern for both, and you have to have plans on how to retain participants from early on in the study and take any measure you can to reduce attrition. And that is, unless the patient doesn't want to participate anymore, then it's fine. Then they, you would. They have the freedom to choose what they want to do. Now, another concern with the crossover study is that if you give the drug A first and then you switch to a drug B, drug A might still be having an effect, and so you might have a carryover effect. So you need a washout period in between. Where you wash out the effect of the first drug before you start the next drug. And in terms of power, the crossover study is very powerful because you have the same patient undergoing both treatments, and so you don't need overall as many patients as the parallel design. In a crossover design, you make repeated measurements on the same patient during different time periods. So you need to keep that into account when doing your analysis. So the study is more powerful than the parallel design, and you don't want a disease that is cured on the first attempt, but it should be a disease that is chronic and also stable. If the disease is progressive, then perhaps a parallel design may be more appropriate. And the patient in a parallel design receive one treatment, and whether it's the active drug or the placebo or the standard treatment, and they will remain on that during the entire trial.